Hello literature connoisseurs. Let's begin chapter 18 of Tribulation Force. The chapter begins with a time skip where 18 months have passed. This is one of the most poorly written time skips because after establishing certain stances by the characters, they suddenly and without warning change their perspectives in foolish ways, as it will be revealed. Rayford is walking through the airport trying to hide his global community uniform because he's ashamed that he's working for the Antichrist. We learn that Buck moved to New York and left Chloe and Rayford behind. Rayford refuses to move out of Chicago and Chloe isn't sure what she wants. One reason that Rayford wants to stay in Chicago is because Amanda White lives there. It was told in previous chapters that she met Rayford's former wife before the disappearances happened. She tried to look him up, but he wasn't interested in meeting with her. Suddenly he is talking about marrying her and he gets a dig in that he's gonna marry her before Buck marries Chloe. We get more juvenile nonsense as Rayford asks Chloe if Buck even held hands and Chloe replies, "Wouldn't you like to know? Who talks like this?" This is beyond stupid even for Christians. We then learn that Rayford is trying to buy a house in New Babylon, which is the headquarters of the global community and where the Antichrist, Nikolai, lives. We then learn that worthless Bruce has been traveling trying to militarize other Christians. The two fakes and Sion supposedly have been filling stadiums full of Christians as their numbers are growing. This seems very exaggerated because if that were true, then who exactly is following Nikolai? Can't really be a threat if the Christians are outnumbering his army. The supposed 144,000 Jewish converts gets mentioned, and considering the world's population, that is a very small number. The number might seem impressive in 50 CE but not in 2025. Ironically, the authors write that as millions and millions became believers, then the crime rate also grew. Is this a correlation? As the numbers of Christians grow, then so does crime, because Christians consider themselves above the law. The authors move on to the one world religion, and the name is Enigma Babylon One World, blah blah blah. The author's inability to make a reasonable name shows what an unreasonable idea it is. This tends to show that their supposed prophecy is another in a long line of failures. The temple in Israel gets rebuilt and the old Jewish practice of sacrificing bulls gets reinstated. Since that practice is centuries old, then who alive today would even know the correct way to do that? We learn that the new leader of the one world religion is the cardinal that is now named as Pope Peter. This created a lot of controversy because it digs at Catholics continuing the no true Scotsman fallacy that Protestants use against Catholics. Yet ironically, even among Protestants they cannot agree on who is a quote-unquote real Christian. Pope Peter declares that Christians and Orthodox Jews are the enemy of the one world religion. This is stupid because it ignores that Muslims and atheists would object too. Each believes that their God alone is the only true God, except atheists that don't believe in gods. None of them would worship in a one-world religion that believes all their gods coexist. We get told that Pope Peter rejects the rebuilt temple in Jerusalem. Mostly because they started doing animal sacrifices there. Not sure why modern Israel or even the Orthodox Jews would do animal sacrifices after centuries of not doing them. Is there even a person alive that can correctly do the sacrifice? Since the God of the Old Testament used to punish anyone that did the sacrifice incorrectly, the superstition that he would punish modern Israel, even though they are atheistic in nature, because of incorrectly doing them, would be a reason to not start doing that ancient act. The two fakes also speak out against the temple for some strange reason. Remembering that not all the messianic prophecies were not fulfilled in the supposed life of Jesus. Those prophecies require the Messiah to enter the temple and rule the nations from there. Can't really do that if there is no temple, so it seems odd the two fakes would oppose the temple if it's their imaginary friend's plan. It's almost like they know the whole thing is fake, like they are. We are then told that the two fakes embarrassed Nikolai at the temple dedication by talking over him without using microphones. Nikolai becomes pissed and starts screaming, "Why has the military not killed them?" So the two fakes continue preaching that God doesn't live in temples, yet forgetting the verse Exodus 25:8. Where God tells Moses, "They are to make me a sanctuary, that I may dwell among them." So the Old Testament God says he wants a physical temple to dwell in, but the New Testament God suddenly changes his mind and views the bodies, still filled with sin because sin was never removed from believers, as the temple that God wants to live in. Funny how the Bible states that God cannot be in the presence of sin, yet somehow he can live inside of sinful evil Christians. Hypocrite much if God even exists. Scene changes to Buck and we learn that he was named the East Coast editor of the newly renamed global community East Coast Daily Times. Which seems odd since Nikolai was going to make a global newspaper and put Buck in charge, but now it's much smaller. Steve Plank gets put in charge of the West Coast edition. Odd that he is no longer the press secretary of the Antichrist. No explanation is given to explain what happened in the last 18 months. Buck then reflects how happy he is that Cock Block Ray is fixated on Amanda White. This means he's staying out of his and Chloe's love life. He's put off moving to New Babylon and he wonders how an American woman like Chloe could ever learn to live there. I mean, we are talking about Chloe. How can she eat at a restaurant that is not Chuck E. Cheese's? Buck then reflects that he's missing Bruce because somehow Bruce has become famous. Famous for what? Being lame. Scene changes to Rayford and in a long roundabout way we learn that Chloe is dropping him off at the airport. She asks about his relationship with Amanda and Rayford just replies close. Rayford daydreams about the first time he met Amanda and how he and Chloe hated her. She forces them to go to dinner and rambles on about her life. She excuses herself when she gets to the part about the disappearances and Chloe rolls her eyes and literally talks about her being white trash. Such good Christians they are. Insert our own eye roll here. Stupid alert, we learn that Amanda only had one conversation with Rayford's life and it somehow changed her life, yet she was still left behind after the supposed rapture. While I suppose it could happen, it seems highly unlikely that the conversation was so meaningful that nothing actually changed. Skipping ahead past the boring backstory of her one conversation with Rayford's former wife. Chloe and Rayford get home and feel miserable about how they treated her when she reached out to meet them. Her mysterious romance, which is a female version of a bromance. That took place over one meeting, seems very suspect. I mean, we are told that this meeting took place right before the disappearances happened. This supposed meeting happens and it supposedly changes Amanda's life, but she can't remember Irene's name afterwards and would not remember it for months. This meeting was so amazing that Amanda decided not to become a Christian because women like Irene are frumpy and white trash. So after knowing her for about a year, we're told, Rayford decided to date her. Why? You may ask. Is it because of loneliness? No. Does he love her personality? No. Her looks? No. So what does he like that he changes his mind about remaining single to honor his former wife? His narcissism loves her subservient attitude. The fact that she makes herself into a slave, because of the religion, is the basis of his love for her. Typical disgusting Christian ethics there, but not surprising considering the religion prides itself on slavery. Rayford asks Chloe's permission to date Amanda, so Chloe talks to Buck about it. Buck reveals that he knew and wondered what took Rayford so long. Chloe asks why he never said anything and Buck makes a lame excuse about not wanting to plant ideas in Rayford's head. Why would that even matter? It's not as if Rayford said I hate her and don't want anything to do with her, then Buck says you two should date. Then Rayford replies, oh my god, now I'm forced to date her because Buck said I should. Real life doesn't work like this nonsense. More than likely we are seeing Cock Block Buck getting revenge for Rayford interfering in his life. Scene changes to Rayford as he asks her about her love life with Buck. We get more juvenile love relationships here as the characters act like 10-year-olds. Rayford starts asking if she and Buck have ever held hands or engaged in risky behavior like kissing. On the lips, for God's sake. I mean seriously, we can't have full-grown adults act and talk like adults. That I'm surprised Rayford hasn't asked if Buck pulled her hair or tried to wipe boogers on her yet. Scene changes to the night before Buck moves out of Chicago and he and Chloe get into a heated argument over who loves who more. Insert finger down my throat. Skipping ahead, the final scene of this chapter is Rayford proposing to Amanda at the exact same time as Buck proposes to Chloe. They briefly discuss a double wedding when the chapter ends. So things are really heating up with these couples. They may even be able to kiss by using their tongues once they get married. Insert eye roll. That ends this abortion of a chapter. See you next time for chapter 19 of Childish Force.